Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so I wanted to talk about group fitness classes. I get people over the years talk about just group exercise in general. The things you should know and the things you should not know. And so today I'm going to go over the pros and cons of group exercise classes. I even wrote them down so I don't forget. I'm not going to say that group exercise classes are bad. I'm not going to say they're the greatest thing ever. And so we're just going to go over some of those pros first, and then we'll end with some of the cons and things you should watch out for next time you go to a group exercise class. So the first pro is community. So the thing that personal training lacks is a sense of community, meaning that people going through the same thing that you are. Yes, there are people that are exercising, I'm sure, out there at the same time you are, but they're not doing exactly the same thing. So having that sense of community, you build relationships with other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, is going to feel really motivating, and it's going to be easier for you to stick through habits. So of all the pros, I would say that would probably be the biggest one. So if you're looking to get into exercise and you're interested in a group exercise classes, that'd be a big push. The next thing is that they're cheap. Fitness, something people aren't accustomed to, might be weary of trying something new and something they're not used to, and they don't want to spend a lot of money. And so they're a pretty good return on investment. You know, spend some, depending on gyms, you might get classes that are free or discounted. Some gyms just offer group classes, and they're generally pretty cheap. I always hear people over the last years I've done this, I will give CrossFit as an example. Ooh, CrossFit, oof. But no, I like CrossFit. I think it's a really good sport. I think they offer a good thing, and I would say they're relatively cheap. And people are like, whoa, that's cheap? You know, almost $200 a month for classes and gym time. And I would say yes, that facility with the coaching, I would say that's relatively cheap for what you get. The next thing would be music. Music is a big pro. High intensity exercises typically have music that are fit to what you're doing, something that's particularly upbeat. If you're doing like a yoga class, I would imagine that the music would be a little bit more laid back, something that fits those exercises, that environment that you're in. Music can go both ways, but we'll save that for a con later. But music can be a great encouraging way for you to stay motivated while exercising. Another pro is encouragement. You have coaches there, sometimes one, sometimes maybe more, to help encourage you to exercise. Most often, they're gonna be very positive and want you to strive to do your best in that current moment. And kind of in the last thing of pros, and I'm sure there's more stuff, and these are just some simple ones to kind of tell you, is nice equipment sometimes. So kind of going back to that CrossFit example. CrossFit has great equipment, sometimes depending on the gym, and for what you pay and what you get, that equipment's not cheap. Treadmills, weightlifting stuff, free weight stuff, that's not cheap stuff to have in a gym and maintain. And so when you do a group exercise class, it's nice to have nice equipment to work with and not have to worry about it being worn or breaking, or breaking it while doing it. So those are the simple pros that I think group fitness or group exercise classes offer. The cons. The first thing I would say is odd man out. And so 3 types of people in a group exercise class. And so this can, you know, when I say group exercise, it could be even like a sports team think. So if you have somebody who is not in shape, and they are probably going to do less or want less because they're feeling overwhelmed in the moment of what's going on. They're out of shape, they don't really know what's going on, and they're not yet with the groove yet, and that's okay. And so of the 3 people, I would say that would be the bottom person. Can you see it under my shirt? There you go, 3. All right, the middle person is probably who that program's for, somebody who's in a little bit good shape, or an understanding of like how the method of that routine. And then that top person is going to be the one that wants more. They're going to be heavier when it, not heavier as in their weight, heavier as in like they do more exercise, they add more weight on the bar, and they're going to want to be pushing things along. So those are the 3 kind of different people, or I'd say odd man out, so 3. So number 2 would be an even number, and 1 and 3 are odd. And so again, the person who wants more, the person who wants less, and the person just right, kind of like the 3 bears, there you go. The second con would be limited instruction. So when you have a whole bunch of people, as a coach, as an instructor, it's really hard to see everything that's going on at once. And it's really hard to tell somebody, especially if they're first time, or even in I would just say a large group, how to do something correct for their body type, for their exercise at that given moment. Most classes are high intensity, so it's really like driven to time. You don't have the time to take out to instruct one person, to have good technique. You can give small cues to a large group of people that will help that group of people at that certain time. Simple cues, head up, eyes up, chest up, feet out, those kind of simple stuff to kind of help the large group of people. But if you're somebody that needs a lot of technique work, group fitness is going to feel somewhat overwhelming. And it might increase your risk factor of getting hurt. So with that limited instruction, you're going to have to weigh the pros and cons of, am I doing this right? Am I feeling okay? Is this something that could hurt me afterward? Also with that different instruction, different gyms, franchise gyms are even worse. I've worked for a franchise gym. It's literally scripted, from what you're allowed to say when you start throughout the entire class and end. That's just because really good quality control of class to class, from franchise to franchise, so you can go to different classes and expect the same kind of thing. But that's going to also limit what that trainer, that instructor or coach is allowed to tell you or help you with, because it may go out of their bounds of what that certain facility allows them to do. And when I used to work for a franchise group exercise class, for me that was really restraining, and I did not like it. The next thing, which was also on the pros, but this is a con, is music. Everybody likes different music, and that's okay. Basically, as a coach, instructor, a facility, anybody offering a class is going to try to fit something towards that specific environment or group of people. Is music really, really, really loud necessary? No. Is it helpful at times to help keep you motivated? Yes, sometimes it's okay. But most often, music is so loud during these classes, you can barely even hear yourself think, let alone understand how your body is feeling while you're doing this stuff. So just take your brain out during one of these classes, and that's basically to some extent what's happening. You're going through the motions, they're telling you what to do. It's an unsafe environment if you let music drive majority of your workouts rather than your mind thinking about, hey, what can I learn during this movement to help me get going for that next one, next exercise, next set, next rep. It's something that you have to mentally think about. And if you're just being overwhelmed the entire time about music, it's really, really hard. The next con, this is a big one, really big. Probably one of the reasons I very much dislike group exercise is that there's no progression. So for a general person to do an exercise class a few times or just getting started, it's probably okay. But there's gonna be at some point where you're gonna plateau with your general fitness, whatever that may be. And There's going to be people that are like, oh, you need to shock the muscle and do stuff, different every time. Well, where's the learning come from it? How is your body supposed to adapt if you throw different things at it every single time? And it's really, in my point of view, it's really hard to calculate the data of what's working, what's not working, and how do we build you to get better when we just keep throwing random stuff out or stuff out at you. And so unfortunately, majority of group exercise classes are high intensity interval training. Just because they're time driven. You can't have somebody do 12 reps, and 12 reps for one person is going to be different than 12 reps for a different person. You're going to have to suggest weight. And with groups, it's kind of hard. Some group exercises do it differently. They do a pretty good job at weight suggestions, and they have rep suggestions. But for the most part, it's really, really hard to see progression when you're doing different exercises and different weight at different rep ranges all the time. And so for me, I'll throw in some HIIT exercises or routines every once in a while just to kind of help switch up my routine to keep things interesting, just so I don't get, I would say, bored with what I'm doing, because a true progression workout starts slow and gradually builds up. And I'll tell you, as an athlete, as a trainer, as a coach, and as a friend to a lot of people, you have to start small. And that's the hardest part when it comes to fitness, is starting small and slowly building and growing from there. Everybody wants to start out super fast and get that high intensity interval training and feel good afterwards. But are you gonna go places with that a year down the road? Most likely not. And for me, that's a big waste of money, not really get a good return on your investment. And if you talk to a lot of athletes or a lot of people that you see on Instagram that are super, super fit, or they advance in their career, either like through a regular career or through fitness, it is through progression. It is not through random exercises all the time, okay? So that's my biggest issue with group exercise class. The next thing is a select time. And so these classes are probably orientated by a trainer, an instructor, a coach, or somebody, and they're at select times. It's not like a gym where you can just show up whenever and do this class. They're typically at certain times of the day. Most often they're around people's schedules. You'll have ones at the beginning of the day. They'll have sometimes probably a lunch special, and then after work mostly. So those 3 time periods. So if you're unable to get to those times, group exercise class is kind of not going to be in your wheelhouse, and you might feel left behind. There are a lot of good high intensity interval training stuff out there, on demand stuff that you can do from your TV, from your couch at home. And those might be a good option to kind of supplement if you wanted to try those as a cheap, efficient way to start doing fitness. So those are the things to kind of watch out for, my cons list, as well as the pros of group exercise classes and how you should approach that, and be mindful about what you feel and think during a group exercise class, or even before you think about doing a group exercise class.